Hello, I want to welcome my friends from the city of Vienna, and I have a privilege to sit right near Dr. Yacov Gaissinovitch, who is a doctor urologist, was born in Moscow, who is a famous model of Ukraine, and who is also a Ukrainian refugee staying with his family right now here in Vienna. I also want to introduce the person who might not need introduction among my friends, Dr. Faye Zakheim, a professor of psychology of NYU, of New York University.
Yeah.
And three of us would like to discuss together our situation of the Ukrainian refugees. And I'm going to give the microphone, Dr. Faye, to you. You have the microphone. And please, let's talk together and hear the story of Yacov. But first of all, Dr. Faye, I am turning the microphone to you. Here it is.
Okay, great. The reason I feel it's really important for me to talk is because I, like so many of us New York Jews, whether we live in Flatbush, whether we live in Muncie, whether we live in Five Towns, whether we live in Lakewood, wherever we're living, we hear about the Ukrainian Jews, the Ukrainian refugees. And all of us think, I'm sure, all of us at the beginning, we were all, oh my goodness, this is such a terrible thing. But then as time went on, we thought, okay, they're okay. And then I know I came here to Vienna to meet the Ukrainian Jewish refugees. And in my head, I was thinking, who am I going to meet here? I'm going to meet people who are poverty-stricken, people who are uneducated, people who are from a third world country. Never did I imagine anything else. Never did I imagine that these people were as educated, as learned as we are in New York, as we are in Five Towns, in Muncie, in all of these places. So I really believe, Rabbi Dr, that I'm not alone when I say that coming here, anybody that would have come here would have imagined that we're going to see people that look impoverished. And I was shocked to be at a Friday night table with so many of these Ukrainian Jewish refugees and to be honored to sit next to the doctor. It's a doctor of urology, an honor to meet his wife, unbelievable, brilliant, more brilliant than myself, educated, and a whole table of Ukrainian Jewish refugees that are, they're like Flatbush, New York, Five Towns people who were taken from their homes, who were thrown out of their homes and had to drive in cars for 26 hours to get to the safety someplace with 3 children, not being able to leave a car. This is a true story. This is the doctor, this is the urologist that I'm so happy to meet, so that I've got it. You know, now I understand, and I don't know how you're doing it. Tell us, how are you doing it, doctor?
I remember myself sometimes being in the operation room, in the operations theater, operating all kinds of diseases, sometimes like a big operation of 6 hours of the Peyronie disease. After 5 hours of work, you ask yourself, what are you doing? You're doing some kind of mechanical work. And now I can add to my question, what am I doing here in Vienna? And now I understand. I came here in order to meet you, Dr. Faye, and Rabbi Dr. This was the main goal and the objective why Coach Baruch Hu brought me to here. It's a very, very unusual feeling to myself that I feel being a refugee. But unfortunately, I feel it already on the second time, because as Rabbi Dr mentioned already, I was born in Moscow, and I lived for the 24 years. The last 24 years, I used to live in Ukraine. We started our life in Donetsk, where my wife is from. We got our chuppah there in Donetsk, and I was making my PhD degree in Donetsk also. And then the war started, so we moved to an absolutely silent city of Dnipropetrovsk, wonderful Jewish community, wonderful Jewish life. And again, all of a sudden, suddenly we find ourselves, after, like you already mentioned it, 26 hours of driving, a real koshmar that we had, nightmare. It was like a nightmare that we trying to erase from our memory, and we arrived here to Vienna, and Baruch Hashem, thanks to God, we are feeling ourselves absolutely in a safety place, and we're trying to build our life. We're trying to build our everyday life. We have inserted already our children to the local school and local kindergarten, and I find a job here, and my wife also is working at school, and we're trying somehow to be absorbed. Yes, like also it's a very interesting country. From one point of view, it is very mixed. There are not so many locals that are born from Austria. You can find many people that are immigrants from different countries. But from the other point of view, it is not like Israel. There is no ministry of absorption that is taking care. So they're a little bit in shock with all the Ukrainians who came, and they're also in shock. They're shocked by that point of view, like the Jewish community is in shock that a lot of high-level people with a PhD, with doctor and master degree engineers came here to Austria, and they are absolutely, first of all, they can be volunteers. Secondly, they want to be involved in local life, in the life of the Jewish community and the life of the Austrian community, and also people want to be integrated, like the integration into this society.
I have a question for you. When you say that your children were in schools there, were they in Jewish schools there, or were they in public schools?
Thanks to God, we have I think it is the best Jewish place in the world, Dnipropetrovsk, with the huge Jewish center called Menorah. It is 7 towers, 22 levels. 22 etage of this. It is a huge Jewish center with a synagogue for 1,500 places, with a huge community of 40,000 Jews, with 5 restaurants, 3 Fleischiks and 2 Melchik restaurants there, with all the community services, starting with the Jewish Medical Center where I used to work. And I went to do Brit Milad already twice to Ukraine, because after we left, after I went here to Ukraine, to Austria, because there is no permanent moil there. I was serving for 24 years as the chief moil of Ukraine, performing Brit Milad there. I did already, Baruch Hashem, thanks to God, 8,000 Brit Milah, and boys are born there. We cannot influence on the delivery process of Jewish women, so I went already twice there, and B'ezrat Hashem I'm planning to go maybe at the end of this week, because there is another baby boy born on Friday in Kiev. And my daughter, I have 2 daughters and 1 son. All of them were in Jewish educational service, in Jewish school, even from Jewish school. It was a machon, exactly only for girls, and a very nice Jewish kindergarten.
Now, once they came over here, they don't speak. Do they speak German? Do they speak the language?
Not at all. Not one word of German.
So how does somebody do that? How do you come to a country where you don't speak a word of their language?
Very interesting. First of all, the Jewish community has a common language that is called not Yiddish but Ivrit. All over the world, the Jewish community, they know Ivrit, they know Hebrew, and all of a sudden I was expecting that my girl, my oldest girl, she is 12, and then I have a girl of 8 years old, they'll start to speak German, but they started to speak Hebrew. Very interesting.
Did they know Hebrew before?
No, they didn't. Okay, they could read like, like everywhere in Jewish school, they could read, they knew a few words, but now they have fluent Hebrew in 3 months.
Wow.
That we're here.
Now, how is that going to accommodate their need to do their studies? They can't do the studies here. Are there Jewish schools here in Vienna?
Yes, there are 3 Jewish schools. There is one ultra-Orthodox Jewish school here. There is a modern Orthodox Jewish school of the community, and also there is a Orthodox school here that my children are going there. It is called the Lauda Educational Center. The Lauda Foundation. Yes, everybody knows Estee Lauder and the Lauda Foundation. They're supporting the educational programs, and my children went there. They're very, very much involved in all the life there, at school and in the kindergarten. And we opened a special with the local rabbi, Rabbi Yacov Biderman. He's the Chabad rabbi here in Vienna. We opened a special educational process with teachers from our city, from Dnipropetrovsk. So all the non-Jewish mates are in Russian or in Ukrainian. What are the children coming? Where they can make a choice, and it is math, it is physics, it is chemistry, and it is literature and language. So all the process is continuing. We're not stopping the education.
Amazing. And Shabbat, how is Shabbat over here? How are you mad? First of all, what about your tablecloths, your dishes, your clothing, all of your shoes? You look great. You look amazing. How did you do this?
Thank you very much, first of all, for the compliment. I'm very much pleased. Being a refugee, I look great, thank you.
Yeah.
And we hope that we'll meet with my wife again, as we met on Shabbos. Yeah. And she will also tell you, have a look. Baruch Hashem, we have friends. But unfortunately, we're left with only one suitcase for 5 or 6 days that we were planning maybe to go back. I took 2 pairs of socks and 2 shirts, and also for the children. So immediately we came here. The Jewish community offered us whatever we need, and also our friends from London sent us a huge suitcase with all the clothing for the children, and it really works. Like it is written, Ish le'reu yazor, one should help to another one, and we'll say chazak, and we'll say that we will have the bracha.
I'm just imagining seeing you, Doctor, that I understand that before this all happened a year ago, you were on the giving end. You were the person that would be helping people and giving them clothing and giving them all the things. It must be very difficult to be on the receiving. I hope I'm not saying anything.
You're absolutely
It must
right.
be very difficult for somebody who was on the giving end, a doctor, 6,000 bris milah, gorgeous family. It must be so difficult for the whole family to be on the receiving end. How are you so amazing? How do you keep your spirits up like this?
I was taught by my parents and my grandparents that everything that comes to this world, they were not from people, but I was always taught that we should accept everything in a philosophical point of view. That everything that comes to this world is come to do it only better. When we came here, it was 5 days before Purim, or maybe 10 days before Purim, and my children came to me and asked me a question: what are with clothing for Purim? Yes, with the Purim carnival costumes. The carnival costumes should be used. Yes, for me the main question where I'm going to take the Megillah, but for children it is the carnival costumes. And we went to the local Jewish school. It's called CPK, Tzvi Peretz Chayos. It was a rabbi, his name was Tzvi Peretz Chayos, and he opened the Jewish community here and he developed the Jewish community. It was around 100 years ago. And in this school there is a Maimonides Center. And we went there for lunch. It was free lunches, like taking... I can't explain you what did I feel myself taking food for free. And all of a sudden, I saw there 15 or even 20 boys and girls from Yeshiva University. And they opened tables and they brought all the carnival costumes, and they were making, make me a look for the children, and it was before Purim. It was the Purim's Eve, and they were making, make me a look, like every child told, make me a look for the Purim. And all of my children, they got costumes and they went. My son was a policeman, my girl was a princess, and another girl was something else, like a butterfly. So we went, and this was the first time, really, when I started to cry. And I was crying, and the guy came to me. We're good friends with him. His father is a plastic surgeon in New York, and we became friends. His name is Rubin, so Dave Rubin. And he told, why are you crying? I told him, look, I'm a medical doctor, and now I'm standing here on the getter side. I was never getting things. I was always from the giving side. But Baruch Hashem, now when I go to shul, I can say that if I have an aliyah to the Torah, so b'zchut that I'll give something. Baruch Hashem, Coach Baruch in these 3 months made things like that. Because Baruch Hashem, we have the opportunity to become givers and not getters.
Amazing. I think perfect. It was such a great,
Thank you very much.
so great to talk
Thank
to
you very much.
Thank you so much.
Dr. Faye, what if I'll ask more about the actual experience or reliving this experience when you made the decision to flee? Because in the beginning they said everything is going to be fine, we don't need to run. Why did they decide to run? And when actually the run happened and how was the journey?
Wow.
Like too much.
It's Rabbi Katzin, you're asking a very interesting question. First of all, we are the emissaries of the Lubavitcher Rebbe. We're not there, like sitting there like people. I could have much more good conditions being in Eretz Yisrael, working as a doctor in Eretz Yisrael. But I felt that there I'm an emissary and I'm doing something for the local community that no one else is going to do. If I'm leaving, who will take the care of Jewish kids and of the Brit Milah? So till the last moment, when my little 4-year-old son at night time didn't call me and told me to look toward the window and that there are red flies at night time, and I mentioned that these are helicopters, and I didn't know what helicopters, Ukrainian or Russian helicopter, and in the morning I told my family that this is the time we have to leave. First of all, we were not sleeping in our beds, we were sleeping in the corridor, because in the corridor you have it is the rule of the 4 walls around, and in Chas v'Sholem, if the rocket goes into the house, and I'm living, I have a new house like in Manhattan with all the glasses and huge windows, I'm living on the 3rd floor. Chas v'Sholem, if something is happening there, this house is, yes, it is absolutely not rocket proof. So when we left from there, we had a really very, very difficult journey, a very long journey of 26 hours driving. We couldn't stop. It was a long, huge line, as maybe people saw it on the websites and on the photos in the newspaper, and it was awful. It was awful. We couldn't stop. We couldn't. I didn't give my kids even to drink in order to not to go to the toilet, because if you stop your car on the side, you cannot go back to the line until some very, very generous person will get you in. So then we arrived to Moldova, to Chisinau. When we arrived to Moldova, Chisinau, I told my family that we're going to stay here for 3 days, and we're going to do whatever the children wants and my wife wants. If she wants to go to the most expensive hairdress salon, so she should go there. And if kids want to go to the like any kind of blockbuster and playground to play there, they can do whatever they want just to get out of this of all this nightmare what we had over. And in Chisinau, I had an interesting story with the Brit Milah. I went to the shul to get some kosher food. And the local rabbi asked me who am I. I just introduced myself. I told that I'm a Moel from Ukraine and we escaped from Ukraine. And he thought, wow, if you're a Moel, I would introduce you to some woman here. And this lady came and she told that she is a doctor. She's a local surgeon in Moldova and she has a 3-year-old son. And when the son was born, the Moel came from Eretz Yisrael, from Israel, and it is a Moel, a regular Moel, not a doctor. And all the Moyalim, they use the powder in order to stop the bleeding. And this powder makes your nails very, very black. And when she saw the black nails of the Moel, she is a surgeon. She knows all the rules of sterility, septics and antiseptics, aseptics. She told this guy is not going to touch my kid. And she didn't do the 8-year-old Brit Milah to the child. And then they postponed it for a year, then and the child was already 3 years old. So this bris should be done in a general anesthesia in an operation room. And they didn't have any Moel with a medical license to get the permission to go in and to do the bris. So and already we fixed our departure from there, from Chisinau to Vienna, it was the 8th of March. Rabbi Katzin knows what does it mean, the 8th of March. Yes, it is the Women's Day all over the world. In the former Soviet Union, it was a very, but still in Moldova it was a day off. So all the hospitals, all the doctors from this hospital came on the 8th of March on a free day, it is a day off, to see what is the Jewish priest is going to do over the child. I did the Brit Milah. I gave them a master class. It was like a master class of Dr. Debeiki, of Professor Debeiki, that make the heart surgery for Boris Yeltsin, and they looked at me and they just were applauding. I have pictures from the operation room. I'm doing the breeze, and around 20 people of local surgeons are watching and admiring.
And you had just arrived there.
Yes, I just arrived.
I
just arrived. I could somehow switch my psychological, all my feelings, and I was very, very much impressed of the job, and it gave me also the possibility to jump over and not to get into this deep depression, because I was in the operation room, by the operation table, and doing a Brit Milah. All these things made me really to breathe. Yes.
Yeah, it was a gift.
It was a gift from Hashem.
What a beautiful story.
Yes.
I think at this point we should just say thank you so much.
Definitely, thank you so much. But since we have an opportunity to speak to medical doctor,
yes,
we understand there are two types of possible psychological trauma. Someone who's going through either personal nightmare or seeing someone get killed or wounded. But there's another possibility. People who came here to Vienna, even before, like very beginning of the war, and they didn't really experience nightmares, but they're in a state of uncertainty. They don't know what's going to be with their future. They're searching for the meaning and purpose in life. They don't know where they belong. How would you comment on the mental health of the local Jewish refugees?
Have a look. In every situation, you have no stagnation. If you stay at this point, you go back. Yes, it is like an elevator. Yes, or an elevating stairs. Yes, it is not standing. Or you go up, or you will go down. So all these people, for example, me particularly, if somebody asks me I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a psychotherapist, and I'm not a psychiatrist. I have just a general medical education and a narrow education in urology, but I'm trying to explain people that they have to do something in order to move over further. So we can always put a point, just we have to understand one thing, that whatever Hashem gives us is only for raising up and for going up, yes? And there's like...
I'm gonna just also from my side want to thank you so much for your Shabbos message. Your Shabbos message was so amazing, practically correct. And why the Shabbos message was so amazing? Because you said something about Rabbi Nosson Finkel, who was a Rosh Yeshiva of Yeshiva Mir. He was a legendary spiritual leader.
Yes.
And his genius was when people came to him and they asked him, or he asked them, I think one of them, it was like business leaders, and one of them, I believe, was the CEO and the founder of Starbucks.
Of the Howard Schultz, yes.
Right. And he asked them, what is the message and the lesson of the Holocaust? I think it was such an unbelievably important lesson and message of yours. So what do you say?
It is exactly the same thing is happening here. Exactly the same thing is happening here in Vienna at this time. Yeah, we are already 85 years after the Holocaust already. Yes, and we can say many things. Like I told on Shabbat, never again. What can we do? We will not let these things to be. It is not in our hands. It is in the hands of Kodesh Baruch Hu. Yes, if the dog is barking, the dog is not guilty. The dog is not guilty. It's the way the dog behaves, and if somebody hates you, sometimes it is not it is not his problem. It is and it is a problem of the circumstances. So never again we should do everything that these things should not come. But the main goal is to share the blanket, as it was in the Holocaust and it was in the concentration camps, when people were getting the blanket. Not everybody, not like we say here in Germany, jeder Eid. Not every Jew was getting. Only one among 6 was getting the blanket, and people during the nighttime were sharing this blanket. And that's what the same thing, exactly the same lesson we learned here. Because the local community here in Vienna shares the blanket. And it gives us the opportunity to live, to breathe, to cook. We can cook Shabbat in all these dishes that are provided by the Jewish community, by our friends. We have very, very close friends that gave us everything. And Baruch Hashem, really, they share the blanket. And for example, we have a very, very close family of us, Erbst family, Shlomo and Renata Erbst. They accommodated us here, they invited us for Shabbos, they gave us a multi-cooker, they gave us a food processor machine, everything that my wife would feel in our kitchen. We have a small house here, also provided by some Austrian guy, local non-Jewish guy. He gave us a flat. And we're living in this flat. You'll see it, Bezrat Hashem. Local, Austrian guy, non-Jewish guy, absolutely. Accommodated here a lot of Ukrainians. And we are feeling that this blanket is shared. I asked this guy, his name is Mr. Lemberger, he's an Austrian guy. I asked him, why do you do this? Why? What is the reason? Why are you giving us? He gave a huge building, full apartments. It's going to be an elderly house, and this elderly house is giving to Ukrainian refugees, Jews and non-Jews. He told, and if my children would be in Ukraine, running away from here, would you give the same? Would you do the same thing? I thought I wouldn't hesitate for a moment. If I were to have something that I could give, I'll give. But very interesting question. When we came here and I called my friend who sent his family, because I'm not a Ukrainian citizen, I'm an Israeli citizen, so I could leave the country freely, and Ukraine. And a friend of mine, he's a Ukrainian citizen, so he can't leave the country. And he was sending his wife and his daughter from Dnipro, from the Dnipro railway station, from platform number 1. And he heard from his grandmother that she was sent to Ural Mountains from the same platform number 1 in 1941. And the same thing, at this time, people were running from Germans to Ural, to Russia. And unfortunately now, we're running from Russians, we're running to Europe, to Austria, to Germany. Baruch Hashem, now we have also the possibility to run to Israel. For example, I'm still a Moel and I can give much more here than I can give in Israel. But people are also making aliyah. But it is very, very interesting. This blanket has 2 sides. One side shows us how people were running there, and now to the east side, and now we're running to the west side. But we're always sharing the blanket.
It's an unbelievable message. And you also maybe repeat us or tell us, why 6? Why 6? Remember, Rabbi Nosson Finkel said 6. Why exactly 6? Why was 1 blanket for 6 Jews?
It is very interesting because the beds in some of the concentration camps was made on the 6 levels, and these 6 level people lying down for the nighttime were sharing this blanket in one range, in this range of 6 beds. So everybody was using this blanket for 1 hour and another hour till the morning when they started the morning, when the sun rays.
Thank you.
Dr. Faye, I just wanted to share with you, okay, with all of us. I want to thank you all, and to say that for me, personally, this idea of 6 reminded the famous Gemara, because the famous Gemara is asking, what was the greatest Torah generation of all times? Remember this question? What was the greatest Torah generation of all times? So, Dr. Rabbi Yacov, what's the answer to this?
Of the
What was the greatest generation of all times? There are two attempts to answer. First attempt, when there were greatest rabbis, greatest prophets. The other attempt is to say, no, it was another generation when even the child knew all the laws of Torah in Tahara. Not only the greatest rabbis, even children knew everything. And the Gemara says, no, you know the greatest Torah generation of all times? When Shisha Hitkasu Betalit Achad. 2,000 years ago, when six people
will be under one
were able to be covered by one blanket.
Yes.
Can you imagine the coincidence?
Yes.
In a way, for me, when I was a principal of Sinai Academy, I used to tell my students that the biggest test for you, how you learn Torah, is the way you stand online to receive food. Lunch, sometimes people, young boys are pushing, they want to get the first ones and run. If they share and give others first, that is the real test of how you learn Torah. So for you is actually the message of Rab Nosson Tzvi Finkel is that the way we share with each other is a measure of our spirituality.
Of raising of our spiritual level. It is, Baruch Hashem, it is really raising every day and becoming more and more strong. So most probably also what was written that about the meat, yes, about the flesh. So in the brachot and in the klalot, yes, in one of the klalot, that the level of hunger will become to such a level that parents will eat the meat of their children. What does it mean? That in today's day we can understand that some of our, for example, my parents, they are not frum, and I'm an observant Jew. So if I come to my mother, we come with the flesh from the store, from the kosher store, and my mother is eating the meat from the butcher store that I bought it from the kosher butcher store, and it is an abnormal thing. When you got your children accommodated in your house, you prepare them, and not the children are bringing. So that's it. The words of the prophets are really existing in our days. And it is the bracha. It is not the klala. It is the time of the bracha.
It's how a curse turns into blessing.
Yes.
So my blessing to you, of course, and to all the Ukrainian Jewish refugees, to turn the blanket the other way. In other words, since you're receiving today, may Hashem give you strength and resources to help others.
Amen.
Either to go back to Ukraine and help the needy people and Ukrainian citizens or those who suffered. And anyone who's in need, you should have the power, the strength, the resource to share and be kind with them.
Amen. Amen.
Dr. Faye, your blessings.
In awe. No,
your
I'm
blessings.
just in awe. I'm so happy that I came here, that I have the opportunity to see you, to meet you, and to meet everybody here that's here, and to just inhale your positive energy and how you turn the whole thing around. There are people who have so much and they think they have so little.
Thank you very much.
And you are a person that has taken so little and you have so much. So it's an honor.
Thank you very much.
And I can't wait to be back with your wife again. I love her.
Yeah, we'll continue our conversation with my wife and with Hashem.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Oh,
Rabbi
thank you so
Dr.
much.
Thank you to you.
Thank you.
Dr. Faye.
Thank you. All the best.